Again, I'm Kim Mahota. I'm the CEO of Pertuity Direct. As most of you guys know, the secondary markets have essentially evaporated, right? And most people will tell you that they're probably not going to come back anytime soon. And when they do come back, they're going to look fairly different from what they looked like 2 years ago. What's even more interesting is any bank or financial services company that tapped into the secondary markets is being forced to really reconsider their business model. In fact, just this morning, the Feds essentially asked Bank of America and Citi to boost their capital reserves. What that means is any little lending they were doing is going to be cut further. So this is the gap that exists in the marketplace today. Banks are not lending, consumer finance companies don't have access to the secondary markets, and there's really this need for a new way to conduct consumer finance and consumer lending. That's where Pertuity walks into the marketplace. What we've essentially built is this new way of funding consumer receivables. We're a social lending company that's built off of a mutual fund model. That model is focused on efficiency, making sure that capital is moving from one end to the balance sheet to the other fairly quickly. We're built on having a very, very intuitive process, and of course, we are registered with the SEC, which was a very, very fun process. What I want to do today is just quickly walk you through the transaction, just so that you guys get a sense of what the borrower sees and what the investor sees. What you'll see is that the process is very, very straightforward. We've pre-populated some fields here so we don't necessarily walk kind of field by field. So we'll start with the borrower. They come in. We ask for some very, very upfront information. We ask them to tell us about themselves. Very standard information. If you've applied for a loan online, this is going to feel very, very familiar. We ask you to tell us how much money you want to borrow, what you're using that money for. We also ask you to give us a story that we then post on the website. We'll see that in a few minutes. We ask you for your financial information. We have a credit policy effectively that looks at each individual borrower, and we're fairly stringent in terms of how we look at their balance sheet, both debt and assets, to make that individual credit decision. We've taken a fairly conservative view around credit policy, and what you'll see in one of the later slides is the kind of portfolio that we've built as a result of that. The good news is in today's marketplace, the demand for our product, which is really focused on prime and the super prime segment of the market, is actually pretty high. So in a couple of quick screens, the good news here is for a borrower who puts a premium on getting quick decisions and being able to find out if they're approved or not, the borrower gets a decision right as they're sitting on their computer, and literally within 2 to 3 minutes, you can kind of see what your interest rate is, what your monthly payments are going to look like. And again, the focus for us being making this transaction very, very intuitive and very familiar for both prime and super prime borrower as well as the investor, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. One of the things that we do is that we ask for income verification from all of our borrowers today, just to make sure that they have that kind of inflow of capital that we will get comfortable with from a credit standpoint. We ask for their bank account information so that the money is sent via ACH, and that's pretty much it. The borrower gets approved at that point, they get queued up for funding, and the investors have the ability to then come in. They're not necessarily lending to an individual. What we're doing is we're creating a portfolio of borrowers on one side of the transaction and investors or lenders on the other side of the transaction. So let's talk about it from a lender/investor perspective. Again, SEC registered mutual fund, pretty interesting process to go through that, but I think what that allows us to do is we've built a fairly attractive portfolio. A couple of quick statistics. So far, and by the way, we launched in January, late January of this year, so it's been just about 3 months. You can see that our average FICO score is 743, which most people would consider a super prime portfolio. In fact, 75 to 80% of our borrowers have a FICO score of above 700. And further, 33% of our borrowers have a FICO score above 750. So pretty attractive portfolio that we're building here. And the application process from an investor standpoint, if you've opened up a Fidelity account online or an ING Direct account online, it's going to feel very, very familiar to you. So just like the borrower process, we ask for some very high-level demographic information. You have the option to do a paper application or online application. Most of the consumers who are coming to us are doing the online application because it's quicker and your money gets deployed immediately. Again, because of the way our business model is set up, you're not deploying your capital to an individual borrower. Instead, your money is going into this mutual fund that is invested across a broad portfolio of borrowers. So that gives you a couple of benefits. One, you get automatic diversification. You have liquidity through our business model. And then you also have the benefit of risk management. So Pertuity does all the underwriting, so you can get very comfortable that the borrowers that your money is getting invested in are high quality and have met fairly stringent kind of credit standards. And finally, once the application process is all completed, you're able to come in and quickly confirm that your application is going through this process. Again, you're investing in a mutual fund, so you have access to a prospectus, et cetera. One nice feature here is you have automatic dividend reinvestment. So for example, as the loans pay down, you don't have to deal with kind of month to month or week to week kind of redeployment. You can simply say, look, I want my dividends reinvested, and you don't have to worry about it. So that's a nice feature that we have for our investors. Quick sneak peek into some functionality that we'll be bringing to market here in the next few weeks. As the portfolio develops, we are going to make available to investors kind of the ability to drill down into the portfolio, and you'll be able to look at summary fund performance. You'll be able to cut up the portfolio by FICO, geography, use of loan, et cetera. Will allow you to come in and take a very specific view into what the fund performance is. You'll have the ability to take a look at the community, loans awaiting funding. Another nice feature is once you've opened up an investment account, if you want to add in money or do a sweep feature, all you need to do is come in here. Minimum is $100, kind of put in how much you want to do from a sweep standpoint or additional investment, click submit, and you're off to the races. As you're going through that process, you are able to come in, look at the community, see who's waiting for funding, and essentially award them what we call Pertuity Bucks, which is a rewards program. So pretty exciting proposition here. One quick thing before I end is we're just launching today Pertuity's $2,500 giveaway, which allows people to come in and vote for 3 borrowers who we've selected and really identify through this voting process